Answering interview questions. By now, you know the different types of interviews. But what about the questions? Is there a trick to answering interview questions? There are some common interview questions you can practice in advance to prepare for an interview. Let's look at a few of them and some of the ways to answer them. The first one we'll look at is one of the most common. Tell me about yourself. This is a simple question, but has do's and don'ts. Don't include personal information. Don't give your complete employment history. Do give your elevator speech. Do list some of your employment highlights or accomplishments. Do work on presenting them in a way that is concise, compelling, and shows how you would be the right fit for the job. An example might be,
I was a team leader at Smith Automotive, where I handled training new employees and ensured production numbers were met. Before that, I worked as a line production worker, where I was ranked highest producer for 3 months straight. And while I enjoyed the work I did, I'd love the chance to continue up the ladder and show my skills in other ways.
Another common question is, how did you hear about this position? Employers track how new candidates learn about their positions. If you were referred by someone, it's an excellent opportunity to share the name, job title, and department of the person who referred you and how you know them. If you found the position yourself, identify the source where you found the job and explain why you decided to apply. Lastly, if you were recruited, explain why you agreed to apply, even if you weren't familiar with the company prior to being recruited. Be enthusiastic about what you learned and why you're interested in moving forward with the company. You might also be asked, what type of work environment do you prefer? To answer this, you would have done your homework about the company and its culture. If the company website, for example, highlights teamwork and precision, those are words you can mention in your answer. If, during the process, the interviewer made reference to the company culture, try to describe your work ethic in a similar way, but only if it's true. How do you answer? How do you deal with pressure or stressful situations? The employer wants to know if you have the ability to stay calm under pressure, or if you will crumble if things get tough. If it's a skill you're developing, acknowledge it. For example, you might say,
I know stressful situations happen, and I've learned to navigate them in my career. I think as time goes on, my skills continue to improve. One time, while working in a production deadline at a previous employer, things were not going according to schedule with my team. Instead of pointing fingers, which doesn't help, my first reaction was to take a step back and figure out some strategies around how we could solve the problem and meet the deadline. There was a time in my career where I would have panicked, but I've learned to stay calm and think things through.
Think about how you would answer this common question. Do you prefer working on a team or alone? A quick tip here is most companies' work environments support some team aspects. Even work-at-home jobs require some team communication. You might answer that question this way.
They both have their advantages. I do well with a team to strategize and gain diverse opinions, but I am comfortable and can produce work quickly when I work independently. I value collaborating with my teammates, but when it comes to producing a result, I can do that independently.
Another question you might hear is, when you're balancing multiple projects, how do you keep yourself organized? This question is so your potential employer can get an idea if you know how to use your time and energy efficiently. It gives them insight into your ability to stay on track and meet deadlines. So be sure to emphasize this and that you take the company's deadlines and workflow seriously. Prepare for the interview by thinking of a specific time when you've had multiple projects or deadlines and what you did to stay on track. Talk about the importance and urgency of the project you were working on and how you got them done on schedule. Explain how you remained organized and focused. Here's an example of how you might answer.
I've juggled projects at my last job where I've had my own production numbers met while I mentor new hires. I prioritize my tasks to stay on track. I found it really helps me get what needs to be done first, and it holds me accountable for more repetitive day-to-day tasks I'm responsible for.
Here's a question that could be challenging if you didn't plan for it in advance. What have you done in the past few years to improve your knowledge? This question became more popular post-pandemic, but could come up if you have a gap in your employment. Employers want to know how you spend lengthy amounts of downtime. Don't worry though, we learn from all of our experiences. If you spent time working on a professional skill, your answer is simple.
The extra time really allowed me to think about my future career. I took some online courses and watched lots of tutorials on improving my leadership skills.
If you chose to work on your personal development, you could say something like the following.
I've been working on improving myself. I've been learning to play the guitar and got back into gardening. It's been great for my mental health.
So what if you're asked the dreaded question, what are your salary expectations? Before you walk into your interview, you should already know what the salary average is for the positions you've applied to. Check out websites like Glassdoor, Fishbowl, or Vault.com for salary information. You could also ask people in the field by reaching out to connections on LinkedIn. Employers will ask this question because every position is budgeted, and they want to ensure your expectations are consistent with that budget before moving forward. Just keep in mind that it's best to discuss a salary range than an expected number during the interview. This leaves the door open to negotiations. It's also better to quote slightly higher because it's easier to negotiate down than up. As a general rule, don't be the first one to bring up salary. Wait for the interviewer. Interviewers want to know if you're genuinely interested in the position or if it's just one of your many options. They want to know if they're your top choice. Honesty is always the best policy. If you're applying for other jobs, just say so. You don't need to tell them where unless you have another offer. Here is an example of something you might say.
I've applied to a couple of other places, but I'm really looking forward to this position because what I have learned about your company, I really feel like it would be a great fit.
The last one addresses your resume. So how do you answer? From your resume, it seems you have a gap in your employment. Would you mind to tell me why that was? This is a lot less important than it used to be, but employers still want to know if you weren't working, why not? Again, it's important to be honest. If you were taking care of family because of illness, if you were ill yourself, or had other issues like incarceration or in recovery, let the interviewer know with a short explanation of why you took the time. Then focus on how it made a positive difference. If your gap in employment was due to incarceration, for example, don't try to hide it. Try some response similar to,
I'm glad you asked. That period of my life was a low one, and I found myself on a dangerous path. I thankfully found myself incarcerated for several months, where I was able to get myself cleaned up, and I'm in a very good place now. I have made mistakes in my past, but it doesn't define me. It has made me a stronger person.
the key to making a winning impression is practicing first. Practicing will allow you to appear confident and give your interviewer the impression of you as the ideal candidate. And remember, if you need assistance practicing or formulating answers, contact your local Kentucky Career Center Bluegrass, and our staff can assist you. In the next section, we'll take a look at how to prepare yourself to answer any question with the STAR response for success.